Good afternoon. I'm Ed Pozzuoli, CEO of Tripp Scott, and today with us is a very good friend of mine, Representative Chip LaMarca. Chip, welcome.
Thanks, Ed. Good to be back.
Happy New Year.
You as well.
Hey, session's coming right around the corner.
Yep.
In fact, next week.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about some of your priorities.
So working on a few of our own filed bills, but overall priorities continue to be our economy, the environment, and education. Three things that we're privileged and honored to have Governor DeSantis make his priorities as well. We had a banner year last year with the environmental appropriations and the issues that we dealt with the environment for clean water, restoring the Everglades, doing a lot of things that are important to South Floridians and residents from Broward County. Education continues to be a big issue. The governor has set out a very monumental change in education.
Teacher compensation.
Teacher comp. So to move us to number 2 in the country, under only New Jersey, at $47,500 for the minimum and starting salary for teachers. There's another additional plan to deal with teachers that have had tenure and senior teachers. We can't continue to make this speech on the stump or knocking on doors or campaigning and saying how important teachers are without backing that up. So I'm proud of the fact that the governor's brought that forward. Obviously, there's a lot of room to make this come together in the House. It's $600 million for just the minimum and base pay. So we're looking at some priorities and juggling some things. I said the environmental will remain an important issue, and obviously, what's the economy? I mean, 3.5% in Florida, 2.5 or 6 here in Broward County, Greater Fort Lauderdale, what I like to call Lauderdale County. Things are on fire, so we're going to go up and do some good things, and we'll keep the safety of our students and our communities at heart when we do it.
So let's go back and talk a little bit more specifically on the teachers' compensation piece. It's $600 million plus a bonus program as well for quality teachers and administrators. That's a huge commitment, and like you said, it puts us second in the country.
Yeah.
What are the chances of it succeeding and getting passed?
I think I'm very optimistic and positive that something very good will happen. I hope we get to that level. We all went through this school system, whatever flavor it was. I was a Broward County public school kid, and I look back, and the reason I was interested in government was a teacher I had back in 7th grade. So we want to make sure that teaching is a noble profession. We also want to, just like any other profession, we want folks to be held accountable and make sure they're doing a great job. So the pay should go along with the fact that they're teaching our kids what to do next.
That issue, along with the environment, is the governor's top 2 priorities.
Yeah.
And I take it there's going to be additional funding for the continued improvement of the Everglades and some of the things in Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah, last year the governor set out a really aggressive appropriation and budget for the environment. He wanted $625 million. With the addition of some septic to sewer and some other different projects, that number came out at $686.5 million. So he actually got more than he was looking for, which is, look, it's important. People don't come to South Florida without clean, pristine beaches, clean water, a healthy environment, great for whether it's tourism, our local economy, our service industry. It's what we thrive on. We're a peninsula around water, and we need to make sure that water is in good shape and our lands are in good shape. So we'll go back and make sure that he has the ability to do these projects again.
You've also filed a very interesting bill, the Student Athletic Achievement Act, and talk a little bit about that. Give us a little summary.
As we look at our student athletes, they're literally...
These are college, we're talking about college.
Yeah, student athletes, so college athletes. They're literally the only segment of our student population that is treated differently. They are skilled at whatever sport it might be. It could be women's soccer, men's football, whatever it might be. If they're a participant in the NCAA or NAIA or any of the sanctioned sports in their teams, whether they're on a scholarship, 100%, all the way down to books, fees, you could be a walk-on. You're not allowed to earn outside dollars in any way connected to your name, image, and likeness. I just thought that was the free market should be accessible to anyone. It shouldn't just be engineering or law students or whatever it might be.
First, it's a question of fairness.
Yeah, it is. It's a fairness, and it's a free market. And we studied some of these cases. There was a young lady, she's now playing for the French women's team professionally, but she went to Florida State from Venezuela. She had 1.3 million Instagram followers. She could have been an ambassador for the Coca-Cola company and that can of Coke there. She could be making a lot of money.
Right.
It has nothing to do with her eligibility or ineligibility to play the sport. Wouldn't change her on the field, but would allow her to have that ability to make some money based on who she is. And quite honestly, there are sports, some more in the women's sports, that don't have a next step. Not the footballs and baseballs and basketball, but you've got women's volleyball, there's beach and other things. But for the most part, you play your 4 years, you enjoy college, and you're off with whatever degree you got.
So what would your bill allow?
Our bill would allow these students to be treated just like the other students. It would allow them to benefit off their name, image, and likeness. We've worked with all of the state universities, University of Miami, private, all the way up to all the public universities, spoke with the athletic directors, spoke with presidents and vice presidents about this. And when we started, there was definitely some concern on their side because we were kind of tipping the apple cart over.
Right.
And California passed a bill that would take effect in 23. Ours, I said, well, if we're going to have the conversation, let's have the conversation. So this bill would take effect July 1 of this year now. I used to say next year because it was last year, but 2020, July 1, and it would go into effect, and it would change the face of sports in the state of Florida. What we do want to do, and what we did throughout the process, is make sure we include the universities. So we're working on making sure that the ability for anyone to do any recruitment tampering or someone getting a student from one state versus another on some kind of deal, that those things are separate. So the student athlete would have to be enrolled in the university, and as we get down this road, we'd like to make it active so that they're really not even eligible for anything until after they've already committed and they're on the team and they're playing. Less likely for an Alabama, say, to take a player from the University of Florida.
So you're talking about trying to introduce free market opportunities to student athletes on one hand, but still keeping some of the structure that exists today, say in college football or college sports, to make sure that schools are not tampering or boosters aren't tampering with athletes.
Yep, believe it or not, if you look at a lot of these situations, you've got there's arguments on both sides, but the reality is this is a segment of our student population that is not able to really earn outside of having a menial job while in college. And we think between the 3 years that you're required to play football, for example, or 1 year in basketball to qualify for the pros, this bill could actually create a situation where we get kids staying in and finishing their degree. 1 more year or whatever it might be.
Yeah, because they're not under the economic thumb to get out and make a pro. You got to have a pro.
And they may get out earlier than they're really ready. They may not be as good as they would be a couple years later. And if without an endorsement or support in one way, basically
would
they
also
are.
give others who are not in the major sports, with some women's sports and some of the minor sports as well, some economic opportunity as well.
Yeah, and to be clear, this doesn't it actually prohibits the university from having any type of financial agreement with the athlete, so that schools wouldn't be paying players, as some folks think. So it would keep Title IX in place and all that.
Okay, so one other topic I wanted to mention is I live in Fort Lauderdale, and you've seen the struggles of the city with respect to infrastructure. Is there a way for the state to assist or partner with the city?
So as I looked at this, I grew up in Fort Lauderdale as well and lived just a little north, different infrastructure system where I am, but nonetheless, they're all 50 to 100 years old, some of these systems, because that's the same age as our cities are. So one of the things that we're looking at is how can the state of Florida be a participant in the assistance of doing a long-term project. So be it estate bonding, be it a mechanism whereby the AAA rating of the state could be a benefit to the city of Fort Lauderdale.
So lower the cost of the transaction, lower the cost of money, so the city can access lower cost funds to improve its.
Yeah, it's interesting. Been around the city while this has been going on. I literally have talked to folks of different financial backgrounds, and there's nobody that I've talked to that wouldn't spend a little bit of money to make this situation better. And so whether it's on their water rates or in some other area, we have to. The reality is we're both very fiscally responsible, very fiscally cheap in some places. I look out for the taxpayer dollars. It's something I take pride in. I've never voted to hurt them in that area. So when we think about that, we want to make sure that we keep that in mind. At the same time, if you want to build something, it costs money. So we've got to figure out how to do that, how it's fair to all the citizens of Fort Lauderdale and ratepayers that are using the system. But you certainly shouldn't have 126 million gallons of sewage going into our pristine waterways.
I think it's a good start
safe
for
bet,
sure.
Right?
The safe bet.
And the other thing I'd add to that is if we're going to do these type of infrastructure projects, hundreds of millions to $1 billion, we should start talking or incorporating while we're digging things up with sea level rise, sea wall heights, things like that. On a longer range plan, if I have the opportunity to do it in the Florida House, I'd like to come up with a comprehensive statewide plan that would deal with assessing and then dealing with seawall heights and sea level issues that affect communities, like we live in here in South Florida.
Oh, Chip, I really do appreciate the time today, and as always, it's amazing to me how much time and effort you put into the public service of representing the people of South Florida. So, on behalf of them, thank you so much.
I enjoy it, and thank you very much for having me, Ed.